You are listening to the Haig MD channel. Nothing on this channel is medical advice. It is for information purposes only, and before you make any changes, or if you need advice, call your own doctor. Hi, Melissa Haig at the Haig MD channel, and today's sexual health hint: soap. Just don't soap. She doesn't like soap. So when it comes to the perineum, the vulva, the genitalia externally, a lot of women find as they age, they cannot use the fun scented, oiled, whatever kind of soap on that area. In general, something very non-toxic, non-scented, like maybe a Cetaphil sensitive skin, or maybe a Dove if it's one of the non-scented is best. And a lot of women actually just use coconut oil. It has an emollient, it is fungistatic and bacteriostatic, so in other words, prevents growth of those things, and that is not going to be hard on that skin like soap. Okay, that's that hint. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about death. What? Yeah, I know. The gynecologist is going to talk about dying, only because I recently walked through that season with my own mother, and it was an interesting process for someone like me who, I'm a doctor. I have watched patients die. In my field in general, it tends to be very quick, unexpected. I have not had very many patients over the years that it was that slow dying process. Really only a couple, and even in those cases, I wasn't their primary doctor at the time. I was maybe just seeing them for one piece of what was going on, and I was certainly not the hospice doctor at the end. So in my case, I had some pretty tough family relationships as a kid. I was the product of a teen pregnancy, and looking back, now that I'm a parent, and for those of you who are moms, you'll probably identify with this, I was certainly way hard on my mom, and now that I am a parent and realize you love your kids and you want to do everything right, but sometimes you just don't have the tools you need, or you just make mistakes, or you just really don't know what's going on. Knowing those things, I can look back with compassion on my mom and say, you know, she did the best she could. Was it always right? No. There were a lot of things that could have happened differently. However, they're also part of what built me as a person. They're the reason that patients see me once and say, no, you are way too blunt. You're not going to cry and hold my hand. Although that's probably not entirely true. But anyway, and then there are patients that see me once and then for the rest of their lives, because we mesh, and I only know how to say it like it is, and that's about it. And I definitely got that from my mom. So she was living independently and quite young, because again, she and I were not that far apart in age, and had some health issues, frankly, from some of her own lifestyle choices over the years. But she ended up with a pretty aggressive brain cancer, and we went from living independently to death in a matter of just 5 or 6 weeks. And I learned a lot during that time. I learned a lot about what I thought was important about our relationship and what maybe really wasn't. I also had some crazy insight into my mom, because one of the things that clued me in that maybe something wasn't quite right was she had a dramatic personality change before her diagnosis, like to the point that I was, wow, this is not the same woman that I've known. And that change was that she just had nothing but nice things to say and was kind, and my mom could be that way, but that in general wasn't her nature. And she really said some things to me that were just over the top sweet, and I thought, this is not normal, unless she was trying to manipulate me. But anyway, that personality change was kind of the start of figuring out what was going on with her, among a fall and other things. As she progressed down that pathway of dying, it was fascinating to me, the things that she would say. And this is a woman who very rarely saw her family before all of this, really kind of holed up in her apartment, and that's just, for whatever reason, that's what was happening. And at one point, she said to me, I really want things to go back to the way they were. This was pretty early on. And I said, well, I mean, just so you know, the way they were was you holed up in your apartment and we never saw you. You have actually seen me more in the last few weeks than probably the last several months combined. And she said, how terrible is that? Who would ever want to live that way? I can't imagine wanting to be anywhere except with my family. And I thought, wow, that is quite the revelation for her, because that, again, wasn't who she was before that. The other thing it really helped me think about was because of how rapidly she became ill, at one point, my family and I had to clean out her 2-bedroom apartment. And there was a lot of stuff. I would not call my mom a hoarder, but she was a stuffer. You know, she had lots of things. At one point, she was doing reviews for an online sales platform, and they would send her free stuff, and she would write glowing reviews. Whether or not she ever used the products, I don't know. But I mean, there were random items that I thought, what in the world is she doing? Like, one of them was a metal pizza table that was like 6 by 6 feet. I don't even know what you do with that. Anyway, as we were just going through and cleaning out all of this stuff, I thought to myself, man, how much stuff do I have in my house that I don't need or want? Maybe I bought it or somebody gave it to me and I never even looked at it again. I mean, my closet could really use some work. It made me really think about what is important. What are the things that I own or have access to that really make life better, that really help me care for myself and my family and my patients in a better way? And man, I can count them on probably one hand. It made me think about letting go of a lot and really doing some work in my house and in my life to declutter. As my kids are helping, well, one kid does not get credit for this. One of my children was helping clean out this apartment. I thought to myself, man, I don't want them to have to do this for me later. I don't want them to have to clean out a house full of stuff that they've never even seen because I've never used it or worn it, or, you know, things that nobody would really need. I thought a lot about that. The other thing I thought about is, what is the legacy that my mom would say I left with her? And again, we had a really rough relationship a lot of my life. But the last couple of years, I had come to a place of forgiving her, whether or not she asked for forgiveness, because I needed to, and because I've been forgiven of so much. And being able to just take care of her, fill her medications, make sure she had what she needed at home without expecting anything out of her. And honestly, she couldn't have given a lot. And I don't mean materially, I mean emotionally. Having gone through that process with her for the months, kind of years leading up to her death, when it came to that last several weeks, it just was such a sweet time of connection with her and being able to talk like old friends. And I would go to her bedside when those last few weeks when she was immobile but still understanding, and just kind of talk to her about my day and talk about what her grandkids were up to. And we just, because that bitterness and unforgiveness and unresolved conflict was gone, we were able to really enjoy our time. And that's what I want to challenge you with over this next week or so. Look at your life and think about, because we all have a terminal condition. It's called life. We get one, and we may not know, like with my mom, the writing was on the wall pretty clearly, pretty early on in that struggle, that it was not going to be a long battle. We may not know how long we get to live, but we know at some point we all die. Where are you with your relationships? Where are you with unforgiveness or bitterness or unresolved conflict? Because I will tell you, there comes a day for everyone when none of it is that important, when you wish you would have just let go of it much sooner. And I will tell you, for me, Several years back, because again, this is not something I had to deal with toward the end of her life, praise God. But several years back, I really just spent a lot of time praying about it and asking for help and really seeking out in my own heart and mind, what was it I gaining holding on to bitterness over things that had happened in the past? And how was that giving life to the other people around me? And the answer I came up with to both of those is I wasn't gaining anything except for, frankly, physical and emotional and otherwise health problems. And I definitely was less able to give to those around me. I think you'll find the answer is the same for you. So think about it. Really explore that question in your own life. Who can you forgive? What bitterness can you walk away from? Because man, the physical benefits from that, unbelievable. So as always, love out loud and live on purpose.